Not many people I see on the lesson tee or on the putting green when they're in for a session spend time focusing on the speed they hit their short putts at. And this is a major reason why they miss a ton of putts inside 5 feet. If you want to get better at these putts, you need to learn how to control your speed. What I see a lot of people do is on these short putts, they get tight, tentative, nervous, apprehensive, or they get very careful and they try and stop the ball at the hole. That is just about the hardest speed you can hit a putt in terms of difficulty or the smallest margin for error. On a 3-foot putt, the stroke is not going back very far. There's no momentum. There's nothing there to help us. So we have to be absolutely perfect. And when the putter is going that slowly, it's really hard to not manipulate the putter face, where we get some twist, we get some torque around the shaft, and we end up missing putts left and right. We have to make sure we hit these putts hard enough. If you're 3, 4, 5, even 6 to 8 feet away, the ball has to get past the hole. As you get further and further away, that's not the case. If you're 15 to 20 feet away, that ball doesn't have to get to the hole. You're not going to make that many of them, so you want to get those as close as possible. That doesn't mean you don't try to make them, but the goal on them is to make sure you get them as close as possible. If they end up in the hole, that's awesome, but we don't have to make them. If we're, let's say, 8 feet and in for the average golfer, that might be further as you get into the better and better players, the ball has to get past the hole. If you're dying putts in, that dying speed should still be a minimum of 6 inches past the hole, which is out to here. If we're not hitting those putts so they get 6 inches past the hole, what happens is the ball moves so slowly that the ball will start to wobble on the greens. It will literally fall on and off the grass. It could hit spike marks, it could hit heel prints, it could hit pitch marks, imperfection in the turf that will move the ball offline that has nothing to do with the read that you've chosen or the line you've picked to hit that putt. So it becomes a total game of chance. I'm really big, when I talk to my students, we want to have as much control as we possibly can. And when we hit putts too slow, we give up control. So not only do trying to die putts into the hole where they're barely getting to the front edge, does that make it hard because the strokes are so short, but it also decreases our chances of making these putts. So we need to make sure we hit putts hard enough. The one thing we're going to do here is we're going to experiment with some speeds. And what I've got is I've got a fake hole. So it's just a little disc here, and then I've got another target past the hole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a few putts here to try to show you what it's like to hit putts really, really soft. So if I hit a putt here, I'm going to try and stop this one on this disc, okay? It's got a nice little target in the middle so I can narrow my focus, and I'm going to see if I can stop it right on top. Okay, didn't even get it there. Let's try that again. Okay, that hit the right edge of the hole. It might have gone in, but that's a tough stroke. So that I find is really, really hard. I can feel the nervousness or the tension trying to be so perfect already. And the putts on this putting green right now don't mean anything. Now I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to try and hit this putt so it gets about 6 inches past the hole. You see I've got a marker out there. Another thing I like to use if we want to just measure this type of thing is I'm going to use this towel here. So it's got some markings on it. So if I set this up, it's going to give me some feedback. Anything we can do when we're practicing to get some feedback is really, really beneficial. So what we see here, we've got 6 inches, 12 inches, and 18 inches past the hole. So I'm going to try and hit a couple putts here. I want to get these 6 inches past the hole, and I'm going to see what that feels like. Okay, that's a great example. I felt like I hit that really, really soft, and it still went 18 inches past the hole. Let's try that again. Going right for the center of the hole here. So there's 6 inches past the hole. That stroke felt way slower and more tentative than I'd ever be comfortable hitting a putt on the golf course. I'm going to try that one more time. See if I can hit it. That's 6 inches past the hole. It feels, and that's almost a foot, and the hole's taking a little bit of the speed off the putt. I wouldn't feel comfortable because I'd feel like there'd be so much manipulation because it's just too slow and there's not enough pace on the putter and then not enough pace on the ball. A good range is about a foot past the hole in terms of the make speed or the capture speed that makes the hole the biggest to give us the best chance of the ball to go in the hole. But when the strokes get shorter and shorter, when we have to add manipulation or feel like manipulation is going to kick in because there's not enough momentum, I feel like on short putts, it's okay to hit them a little bit past the hole, okay? So that was 12 inches past the hole and felt really small, really short. I'm going to hit one here. I'm going to see if I can get it to that disc out there. So now I'm going all the way to 2 feet past the hole. My goal is still to make it across the center of the disc. So that felt, to me, when I hit that, about mid-range pace, okay? It felt pretty comfortable. It didn't feel like I was hitting it way too hard or anything like that. And it got about, like I said, that's just past 2 feet. I'm going to try that one again. Set up. Look at the target. Still focusing on the center of the hole. That felt perfect, okay? And again, this is in this kind of between 18 and 24 inches. That's the way I would love to hit putts to the hole, okay? So we've got a feedback station here. I'm testing how far. You don't need a towel. You can easily get a ruler or just guess some tees. See how far past the hole you can hit. I've got these fake holes. They're great. You can find them anywhere. This is from Tour Habits. I really like their stuff. You know, they do a really good job. They've got a bunch of tour players using, again, these products. You can find fake ghost holes, whatever they're called, anywhere. You can even get a coaster. Little thin, like cardboard coaster works great. Something to give you a feedback or give you some feedback when you're hitting these putts. If you don't have any of those, what you can do is go to an old hole plug on the green. So just a hole that was previously cut. It's the perfect size of the hole. The ball is going to go right over top of it. Find one that's been replaced in the last couple days. Another great way to test the speed on these putts. This is something that we get shorter and shorter with these strokes to try and be more and more careful. It creates more tension, more nervousness, more anxiousness, and it makes them harder and harder to make. And then what happens when we miss a few? Now we start to feel more pressure. We get, again, more nervous. We get uncomfortable, and we start to dread these putts when they're generally the easiest thing we can do. Another way you can practice this without any of this stuff is just using the cup. So you're actually hitting it to a hole. And this one I really like. I heard it from David Orr, who's one of the best putting coaches in the world. He used the reference as front edge, swish pace, or back rim. So you're going to hit putts that are kind of 3, 4, 5 feet, and you're going to experiment with different paces. So the first putt I'm going to hit this one here, I'm going to feel like it's front edge. So this is dying pace. And remember, dying in pace, the ball would still get 6 inches past the hole. That's important to remember. Dying in is not stopping at the hole. The next pace I'm going to hit one here, this is going to be swish pace. So this is one I'd like to feel like the ball falls just right into the middle of the hole. That was pretty good, maybe even a bit slow. Okay, so this is where you really develop some skill as to how to control the pace of the ball. When we control the pace of the ball, you're going to see more and more putts stay on their line and end up in the hole more and more often. Now I'm going to go to that firm speed where I want to see this ball hit the back of the cup. Okay, that was better and maybe not quite as firm as I could go. When you experiment with different speeds, you get to understand which ones feel the most comfortable. Almost every time I do this drill with a student for the first time, they find dying it in the hardest way to make short putts. And a lot of them are ones who have been trying to die putts in their entire life. Go around the hole, practice uphill putts, practice downhill putts, using this basketball reference with front edge, swish pace, and back rim. That's going to give you an idea of how hard you want to hit putts. Downhill putts, you might want to look at putts that are maybe swish or front rim, okay, where it's dying in. Again, it's going to get past the hole. Uphill putts, you'd never want to die it in. You want to make sure it's got enough pace because the ball is going to slow down a lot faster. Give yourself a station to test the speed on these short putts. Imagine what it would feel like to hit putts a little bit harder in this short range, and what you're going to see is your start line control, which is very important on these short putts, is going to get better and better because you're hitting it with a less controlling, a less careful, a less manipulated putting stroke. Hitting putts carefully almost never works. So gain some comfort by understanding and practicing how hard you're trying to hit short putts, and you might be amazed at how many more putts end up in the hole and how your confidence starts to go up and up and up. You start to have fun with these putts. You start to get the feel where people give you these putts more and more often because they just know you're going to make it. That's the type of putter you want to strive to be. And if you add a little bit of functional practice in, you could easily get there. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you can add a little bit of this practice into making some short putts or to working on your short putts, gives you some function, some guidelines and some feedback stations, I think you'll surprise yourself with how much easier these putts become, and then how the rest of your game tends to get better because you're not afraid of hitting short putts. Let me know what you think. Like this video, subscribe down below, comment. The more engagement, the better. I'm looking for more and more people who want to be a part of this scoring solution. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Tell me what you think, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.